Today we're going to continue where we left off with working on this free 300ZX that we received from Mr. Jeff. This will be the 4th video in this series, and if you guys want to see the rest of them and stay up to date, there's a playlist down below where you can see all of them in order. Now this Z was unfortunately a Midwest car, so it has its fair share of rust, but I figured it'd be best to get it running and driving first before we start dealing with bodywork. And also just the fact that it's a 300ZX means it has a VG in it, so we're dealing with the VG problems. In the last video, we put on some refreshed valve covers, new gaskets of course. We also freshened up some of the hardware, and while we were taking all of this apart, we realized there were some additional seals that we needed to replace. And I'd like to mention all of the parts and pieces to this car are funded by you guys watching the video, so thank you guys. The ultimate goal today is to get this thing started once again, but we gotta start with looking into the fuel system and cleaning up the fuel rail and installing new injectors. Let's begin by making sure we have the right parts to work with. Now these are updated injectors, meaning they are post 1993. There's an early model style and there's a late model style. The early model style is known to short out over time. Apparently they really don't like the ethanol that's in the fuel, but that issue was fixed with the late model. Unfortunately, these new style injectors don't just drop right into the old style fuel rail. So we have a couple pieces here that we're going to use to adapt it. First things first, we're going to replace all 6 of these lower grommets because they were all crushed. Obviously we got the new style injectors here. And then there's an upper and lower O-ring for those injectors. And then we have new top hats that are going to be used to adapt them to the fuel rail. And then we're going to have to convert the plugs because the plugs are different. Which I'm really glad that we have to convert them because I think every single one of these stock factory plugs had corrosion in it. Plus they're all cracked and chipped. I mean, that's pretty common for 30-year-old plastic. To begin, let's start with just cleaning out the crustiness within the fuel rail. I'm going to use some brake cleaner and a blue shop towel. Just spray a little bit on there and try and rub it out. Now I tried my best to clean them out as much as possible, and ideally I would love to remove this entire upper plenum, but unfortunately this upper plenum is connected to a tensioner within the timing belt system. You can see right here it kind of stems out, and under the covers here is the tensioner right there. I'm not trying to take apart this entire engine right now just to get it running. We can honestly do that down the line if we really want to go that deep. But at this point we are good to install our lower bushings. I don't know, are these technically grommets, bushings, O-rings? I don't think they're O-rings. They're just kind of sitting there. The original grommets were in really bad shape, and these don't look directional, so it doesn't matter which way they go in. The next thing we need to do is prepare the injector. So before we install these new O-rings, I'm going to apply some silicone grease, silicone dielectric compound as they call it. I did grab a new towel because once you apply this stuff, it's going to start picking up all the sand on the ground. So I just put a little bit on there, and then I'll just rub it all around it, get a nice coating evenly. Doesn't need to be crazy. I'll just slide that guy up there. There we go. Do the same thing for the smaller one. Slide that over. Now try and do this without breaking this plastic cup on the end here. Now before we proceed, we're going to have to slide the adapter on. This adapts it to the older style fuel rail, on the base at least. Then we'll have this upper clamp to secure it to the rail. And since we already applied some grease here, we can just slide in freely. But I do want to apply some dielectric grease to this O-ring now. Well, I got all the injectors ready to install, but I forgot that I did not prep the fuel rail yet. This thing is still crusty. Need to clean this thing out. Luckily, I've already popped out the injectors. They're just kind of sitting in there. Look at how crusty these things were. Yeah, that's pretty rough. Oh, the bottom's already cracked too. It looks like they installed some spacers on the fuel rail. You can see right here, this is like upper and lower. I wonder why they did that. But then they have a ground separate. Obviously this isn't going to be like professionally coated or anything, but I want it to look a little bit better than this. You know, we're already this deep. Just finished refreshing the rail. Just gotta let it dry. Now you're probably wondering why didn't I take off these hoses if I was going to just respray it. Well, I was planning on replacing these, and you don't really want to spray where the hose is going to be. So the hose is just protecting the spot where the future hose is going to be. So we won't have any contaminants in there, nothing that will affect the seal of the new injectors. This is the stuff I used to refresh the fuel rail. Even though this isn't aluminum, this is aluminum refinish, but I like how it looks. I believe the rail went this way. I did put some dielectric grease where the O-rings will seat onto the rail. Push those in. And I also made sure not to paint there, and I just kind of cleaned it up with some brake clean on a rag. That way we get a nice healthy seal. Looking back, I probably would have painted this fuel rail black, but that's okay. Learning is just part of the experience. I did refresh the hardware, so that's all nice and black. Same with those plastic spacers, those are nice and clean. Now, just to prevent any gunk or debris from flying into the fuel rail, I think I'm going to put in the injectors now. Luckily, we already got these guys lubed up, so they're ready to go in. I can't remember which way the plug is supposed to face. I think it's supposed to be like that. That would make the most sense, right? I wonder if I should just let the caps do the pushing. We'll put one of these nicely machined caps on. All right, let's grab some hardware. And it looks like this hardware utilizes a lock washer. I love putting new parts on. It's so satisfying. Especially when it works. A lot of times you buy new parts and they don't fit and they don't work and you have to like machine stuff and make it custom. No, this is nice. Before we move on, I want to finish the fuel rail section. So I have already cut a piece of 5/16 fuel rated hose off of the hose that I brought here. Took the clamps off of each side of this hose in the front here. Honestly, it's pretty rock solid hard. So it's definitely due for replacement. And instead of trying to fight this thing off, I'm just going to cut some slits in the top. It'll come off way easier that way. Got the old crusty one off. While we're at it, let's replace these two short hoses here. There we go. Next thing I want to do while we have the intake manifold still off is install these heater core hoses. These things go all the way back here. You can hardly even see them. Looks like we have either brass or copper fittings coming out of the firewall, and those need to match up to here and then to here. These were the OEM ones I took off. I tried to keep them in the same orientation so I wouldn't get confused. So I'll try and match these up. We finally got the heater core hoses installed. Those are looking pretty sweet. We have a couple things left before we put on the intake manifold. We have to figure out the PCV hoses here. This is a PCV valve. There's actually two of these. They go on both sides of the intake manifold and they're placed around here on either side. These are the two PCV ports. I don't know why Nissan decided to put them on the same valve cover, 1 out of 4. And yes, all 4 of these are separate covers, surprisingly. But I have enough spare hoses where I think I can make it work. So I can kind of line it up with this hose back here, that fitting. Then I have this adapter, which, fun fact, came off of one of the stock 300ZX hoses. So I'll put that here. Then I'll use this hose to bring it from there to around where the PCV valve's gonna be. And then the other one, we can just use it straight because that's very nice and simple there. Nissan's like, nah, we don't want to make it easy and put a port right here, you know, on either side. The vacuum lines are connected. I'm just gonna trim them when I have the manifold on so I know exactly how long I want them to be. But there is one thing I just remembered before we put on the intake manifold. It's this stud all the way in the back here. I forgot that this one was snapped. So what I'm hoping is I can get a vice grip and grab just enough of this to loosen it. But if not, we're gonna have to grab the welder and weld the nut to it. Oh, it looks like it's moving. This is great. This has got to be best case scenario. That's a nice little trophy piece. Now I believe this is the knock sensor harness. I'm gonna repair this while I have access to it. I got the harness patched up, but there's one thing I also forgot to do, and that is plug the EGR. The last video we completely removed all the EGR components except for the one port that comes out of the manifold. All the way down there you can see the fitting. However, I was not able to break that loose and I sawzalled it off on the other side. I might just try and weld it shut. Since we're outside, I might run this a little higher. Probably keep the heat right at 2. I need a good ground. Probably just ground it directly to that hard line. Somehow, some way, I was able to booger it up a little bit. Can't even see it down there. I think the time has finally come. Let's bring out the intake manifold. Oh man, I've been so excited for this. So we have a couple things going on over here with the intake manifold. First of all, I don't have throttle bodies on it or the idle air control valve. And we're also gonna have to clean up the throttle bodies. I don't wanna install these things looking super crusty because as soon as you pop the hood, those are gonna be the first things you see. When I went to drop all of this stuff off at Powder Coat, he suggested I do not powder coat or sandblast throttle bodies or anything with springs like this or bearings. So we've got some scrubbing to do. I got a red Scotch-Brite pad here and then some soap and water in a cup. We're gonna clean these as best as we can, scrape off this old gasket, because I do have brand new OEM gaskets. And then we have EGR block off plates. Then there's also two of these guys. I got two OEM ones. These are the PCV valves, also go on the bottom of the manifold. Just so many parts and pieces to this car. As soon as I think I make some major progress, I'm faced with the next stage. That's okay, we'll get this all cleaned up and looking good. These things were absolutely disgusting. You can see how much soot has been caked into this thing. I'm pretty hyped with how these things turned out. They're far better than what they were before. I wasn't able to get the throttle bodies perfectly clean, but I think that's gonna flow way better. I did put a coat of that aluminum refinish on there, but I was sure to tape off anything important. Now the fun part's gonna be remembering how this goes onto the manifold. Guess we can finally open this thing. Wow. Cannot wait to put this thing on. Should I put the thread sealant tape on these? I'm pretty sure anything that seals by thread should have this tape on there. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not too sure about that. PCV valves are installed. Now notice how these were just completely coated over. That's because we are not going to be utilizing these. These were the hard pipe adapters that helped bring coolant all the way to the throttle body and all the way back, and it was just an absolute mess under here, but we're simplifying it so we don't have any issues down the line. Now while we have this thing upside down, let's put those EGR delete plates on. Looks like we have some gaskets to go with it, and then two aluminum covers. This is all the manifold hardware, so I have the bolts right here. Alright, now let's remember how the throttle bodies go on. I know that there's some kind of way this inserts into them. And even more importantly, let's not forget to put the gasket on. Some more OEM goodness. Luckily these are not directional. Then we have two dowel pins on the throttle body itself. I also refreshed the hardware while I was at it. These are 6mm Allen heads. I'm gonna put this middle support brace thingy on. I guess it's not a brace. It's the dual throttle body actuator. At this point, I think the intake manifold is ready to go back on. And I'm sorry if this lens is too far zoomed in. I've been trying to find a compatible lens for this camera. I did recently switch to using a Sony camera. I was filming with my phone for the past 2 years on YouTube. So we got a nice quality bump, but I'm still trying to dial in the settings here. But before I put the manifold on, one more thing I want to do is change out the spark plugs. Now, yeah, I could do that with the manifold on, but with the manifold off, there's so much more access. And I'm really curious to see how these spark plugs look in here. I ordered some OEM plugs to put in it. It's pretty neat how they come in an OEM package, and then they're also NGKs. How are we looking? I guess it's not horrible. The old plugs were NGKs, but they were iridiums. I'm gonna put a dab of dielectric grease on the tops, and I guess it doesn't hurt to put a little bit on the threads down here. Plug number 6 or 5, I don't know, whichever one is in the back right, was absolutely full of oil. Okay, last thing, I swear. While we have access, let's put on some dielectric grease onto the injectors. You guys saw what happened to these previous injector plugs. Yeah, we really don't want that to happen again. Doing this is going to prevent corrosion in case moisture gets in here. And with the way that these are sitting, if it gets sprayed down, you know, water is most likely going to pool in here. I'm sorry, I found one more thing to do. This is the fitting for the brake booster vacuum. But wait, there's more. Hopefully the last one. This one I'm planning to delete and block off anyways, but I don't have anything that I can fill this port with, so we'll just put it in. We got our new OEM gasket ready. I guess we can finally take off this tape that I used to protect any debris from falling in here. Ooh, good save on this one. That would have been really bad. That's why I stuff it with a towel, and then I'll also put the tape on top. Luckily this gasket only fits on one way, so there's no guessing which way it goes. Top, bottom, left, right. Alright, we just gotta hope that it doesn't shift. It's gonna be really hard to start the bolts with the gasket shifted. Before we lower this manifold all the way down, I should probably cut this PCV hose back. Plus there's also some wiring just in the way. Same with this rock hard fuel hose. Definitely gonna need to replace that one. And trim the excess here. We'll slide this clamp on and we can put it over the PCV valve. This is beginning to look insanely good. The vision is coming together. However, I'm noticing a future problem. How in the world am I gonna plug in this injector? Look at it right down there. Even if I did turn this thing 180, it would shoot out over here. I don't even think it would clear with this little bracket piece on the intake manifold. Am I gonna have to take the manifold off and trim this area? Looks like the other ones should be fine. And they are pointed in the factory direction. They're supposed to be pointed out like that. I did just verify because I questioned it. Let's see if the connector will fit on it. Because if I bolt it all the way down and the connector doesn't go on it, it's gonna have to come off anyways. And the whole goal with all these deletes and all these upgrades was to never have to take off the intake manifold again. Before we install it, let's verify. Kind of wild, but I think I'm gonna need to take off this oil cap for clearance. It's always an interesting comment. All right, here's the plug. Let's see which way this goes. Okay, so the clip goes on the outside. Yeah, not a chance. Not even close. Nah, man, the way it's looking, I'm gonna have to notch that. Let's be real. Before we take it off, let's make a mark how far we should cut. Well, that's a decent chunk. Maybe that'll be enough. Alright, I got the bolt started in the center here on the intake manifold. Let's see if we have access. It looks a lot better. I think that'll be fine. Let's see if I can take this plug off. The clip, pull it. Oh yeah, we're in business. But can we put it back on? Yeah, perfect. Alright, guess we'll finish assembling it. Also, I gotta put the studs back in for the balance tube. I don't remember where those go. I think I have only 2 of these. At least we have a reference car here. These look like studs, since there's 2 acorns. Let's see this side. 2 bolts, acorn, so 3 studs. Uh-oh. I hope I have 3 studs. I'm gonna just assume that the flat side goes down and this one goes up. Looks like the thread lengths are about the same. It's not too far off. Now I am missing 1 bolt for the intake manifold. Now I vividly remember Jeff mentioning that he included a spare. I cannot find that spare anywhere. I'm sure it'll turn up. I mean, you guys see how many parts and pieces go into these. It's no simple task, but if anything, I can just bring one of these bolts to the hardware store and match it up. Luckily, it's not like a specific style bolt. It's pretty generic. Yo, check it out, Nate. Right?
What you think?
Yeah, what's Mr. Chase think? Is it sick or what, dude? Like, nah, no turbos. The next task is actually going to be converting the wiring harness. Dude, this one didn't fit, so I had to take the manifold off and like grind this little piece.
You tried all the other ones?
Well, the other ones are pretty open. You can see them, but this one, like, you couldn't even fit a plug on it. Got the plugs all converted. I actually went ahead and connected all of them. Slid in a few coil packs, have 1 more to go. Then we'll tighten those down, wire it up. And then we got to figure out the balance tube and then also what hoses need to go to that. It's not too much left, right?
I don't know.
These things are crazy. Have you ever seen a coil pack shaped like this?
I can't say that. It's got a lot going on.
Yeah, right?
This whole engine has a lot going on, but you have done a great job simplifying it, and it looks 12 out of 10.
Oh, thank you, sir. I did not refinish the little engine cover thing, so we'll have to readdress that later, because spaghetti on top is never good. Let's open up this balance tube. Man, I'm so excited. Home stretch. This thing turned out great. The quality is insane. Now we have 3 balance tube seals. Let's try not to lose these. All right, looks like 2 of these are the same size. There, and then the other 2 go right here. Now I made sure to plug everything in first because, well, actually, do we need to put the fuel row in first? the balance tube. Let's go check. You know what? I forgot to refresh this thing. Oh man. It is what it is, man. I was planning to redo this whole thing because I don't want to run all these extra lines and the fuel damper because there's a fuel pressure regulator as well. I don't think we need both of those.
Yeah. Flick again, and then it just...
Well, we have everything connected except for one piece. I cannot find the throttle cable bracket. That must have gotten lost during transit. So we got nothing to attach the throttle cable to. But, however, we might still be able to start this thing up for the first time. We got some new fuel lines going on over here, and I tried to tape up all of our vacuum ports that we deleted. Unfortunately, we didn't have any vacuum caps here, but for just a test start, I think it'll be fine. Power? Probably, okay. Fuel prime. Do a couple fuel primes, then we'll just make sure there's no leaks. How's the fuel looking? Any leaks? So far, so good. All right, test start. Here we go. Oh, second try. Oh, no. My bad. Yo, it's running. Sounds iffy. Exhaust leak? Dude, it kind of sounds like it's knocking a little bit. Do you hear that? It's pretty loud on this side. Oh, it's leaking bad over here. You hear that though, right? It could be an exhaust leak, maybe. It did get smoky.
Well, probably when you pulled those injectors, all that fuel.
Yeah, well, and some of the spark plugs when I pulled them, there's oil. So, mixture of that.
Yeah, get cleaned out.
Yeah, right? It lives though. It's definitely not misfiring. It smells oily.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can see it oozing out. Maybe it is blown.
It don't sound bad though.
Yeah, it sounds pretty healthy.
Yeah.
Other than that kind of knock sound. But
Yeah. Quiet it up a good bit.
it did quiet up.
Yeah, they gave you a thicker oil. There wasn't really oil on the top. The car hasn't run for like years, so it's probably just
5 years.
dry up top.
Yeah. Sounds good.
How many bolts is that throttle cable? Back there.
It's 2 bolts.
Molly.
You want to steal it?
For the driving. Or
Yeah, right? Alright, let's try. Oh, they're blue.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot we got a headlight out.
That was happening.
You gotta get a bike light and tape it off.
Oh,
dude.
it turned on for a second and it turned off. Damn. Yeah, it's dead. Do the fog lights work? Nothing. Dude, it's still smoking quite a bit. I can't lie. This thing might be blown. It's only one side too, so it's like... I don't know, man.
It's kind of coming up, but definitely not anymore.
Yeah, right? Yeah, dude, right there on top. 2 bolts. And then obviously the throttle cables.
Yeah.
14s for the cables and... Huh? You got them on quick release? Yeah. Alright, bet. Let me grab a 10. Alright, we stole the bracket off of Holly Z. We're gonna go on a quick little test drive. But we're not going very far because we got like no gas. Oh man, fired right up. I can feel the exhaust leak on my leg right here. Welcome aboard! Hopefully we don't kill it. Clock works. That's sweet. Woo! Clutch works. Yeah, I heard something fall. High beams? Oh, now we can see. This thing drives pretty good, actually. A little like loose feeling. I'm sure all the bushings got some dry rot, but no complaints really for its age. Oh, that's a nice little bump.
Took that bump good.
Oh, that exhaust leak sounds so bad. Right?
Oh, the green light.
Oh, the green light's on? Yep. Disappears whenever I look at it.
Yeah, literally it's off now.
Of course. This thing drives good. Once the exhaust leak is fixed, I think it'll be a good driver. I wonder if the smoke will clear up after this, you know, drive around the block.
Yeah, quick break-in cycle.
Break-in cycle. Gotta put the break-in miles on her. Looks like all the gauges work too.
Yeah, this thing feels pretty solid.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh, backfire? Feels pretty good. You gotta drive. Oh, it's so smoky though.
Yeah, it's real smoky in here.
Brakes, I give a solid 4 out of 10. Real smoky in here. Hopefully we don't blow up. And well, I'd give that a successful test drive.
Went around the block and it's over.
It made it around the block.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Is it still the same side? Oh, it's like a little bit of both now. Well, no, mostly this side still. Yeah, something's definitely not right. Hey, but at least it's running, right?
It's
something.
running. Went around the block.
Yeah. Well, I'm not too sure what's going on with the oil burn coming out of the exhaust, although it smells like oil. I'm not too sure. Before we label this engine as blown, I think I want to do a few tests in the next video. If you guys have any ideas of what I should look for, please let me know. But other than that, it did come together pretty well. Pretty satisfied with how it came out. It's obviously not done, but this is a step in the right direction. And I think that's where we're gonna end today's video. So thank you guys so much for sticking around. Don't forget to drop a like if you haven't already, subscribe to see more. This video took 4 or 5 days to make, so I'm a little bit exhausted. See you in the next one. Peace. So sick.